Coach, I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's show. I want to first start with what has been the biggest challenge for you on the field as the new head coach of the Mountaineers?
Well, thanks for having me on. We're just a really young football team. Last year's team challenged for the Big 12 championship and really were in the running right up until the last weekend of the season against Oklahoma. But now 9 of those players and really all the key offensive players off that team are now in the NFL. We've got 9 guys off last year's team in NFL camp. So a really young, inexperienced team, but a fun group to coach right now.
One thing that you said recently is that you were looking for consistency from that offense, specifically from your quarterbacks. What has Austin Kendall, Trey Lowe, and Jack Allison shown you so far in camp?
Well, we've had some ups and downs, which is usually the case with guys at quarterback that haven't played a ton. And so we're a group that really needs to be consistent. And to me, in coaching, you're trying to find consistency. And I don't think there's a greater term I can use than being consistent. They all 3 have different traits that I think can make them quality Big 12 quarterbacks. Austin Kendall is set behind the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners. He's got a really quick release, student of the game. Jack Allison probably has as much arm talent as anybody in the country. And then Trey Lowe is a dual threat.
You talked about players that have gone off to the next level in the NFL. Wide receivers David Sills and Gary Jennings just being a few of them. Who are you counting on in that wide receivers room to step up for your offense in 2019?
Well, TJ Simmons, who's a junior for us, he transferred from Alabama, played last year. He's the guy that returns, that has caught passes in games, and he's the guy that has scored touchdowns. Outside of that, we really don't have any experience. So I think a couple guys of note, Sam James is a redshirt freshman that we feel like is going to be a really good player for us. Tevin Bush is a guy that we're going to have to expand his role. And then we're going to need George Campbell, who's a graduate transfer from Florida State. He's going to have to come in and be ready to play.
We talked about consistency with the quarterbacks and depth at that wide receiver position. How has this offense as a whole adjusted to your style of play on offense?
Well, it's very similar from a system standpoint to what they were running here before. I do think we have some pieces that we can be a quality offense. They're just young, and we got to get them experience. We've got to do a great job as coaches putting them in a position to be successful. But this group has been hungry. And I do think that we're going to have a quality offense as we go through the season.
You talk about having a lot of young players on this roster. Who has stepped up as a leader to help this transition?
Well, I think if you're looking at it from a defensive perspective, Josh Chandler, who's our will linebacker, he's done a great job of really coming in and establishing himself as a leader, even though he's only a sophomore. Dylan Tonkery is a Mike linebacker that's played a lot of football here. Offensively, our best player and the guy that has the most leadership ability is our starting left tackle, and that's Colton McKivitz.
Speaking of linebackers, you guys also have Darius Cowan, who came from the University of Alabama. What type of growth do you need to see from him both on and off the field in order for him to make a major contribution to your defense?
He's just got to mature on an everyday basis. He's a guy that has a lot of talent, set out last year. He's probably one of our best edge pass rushers. We're transitioning him into an outside linebacker role. He's traditionally played a Mike, and we're going to play him on the outside. And he's a guy that we need to make plays for us, and not only from a pressuring the quarterback, but also on special teams.
West Virginia's secondary took a hit in the spring when it came to transfers. You guys had Kenny Robinson, Derek Pitts, and E.J. Brown all enter the transfer portal. How has your defensive staff adjusted to losing potential starters?
We did, and in particular, the loss of Kenny Robinson, who was an all Big 12 player a year ago. But just like any other position, when you have losses, you overcome, you adapt and overcome, and that's what we're doing. We're a group that, Sean Mahone is a guy that's a redshirt junior, and he's ready. His role is he probably had the best spring of any safety in our program. And his role, he's ready for his role to increase. Josh Norwood is a corner who started most of the games last year. He's transitioning to safety, and he'll be a guy that's going to play at a high level for us as well. And then we've got some other guys in the secondary that have played a lot. At corner, we have Keith Washington and Akeem Bailey, who are both seniors, and so we've got guys in the back end that are experienced. Just not a whole lot of guys have played the safety position.
Every team has a motto going into the season. What's the motto that you're telling your team going into this 2019 season?
Trust the climb. We're mountaineers. We're always climbing, and it's just trust the climb. There's going to be some growing pains early. We realize that, but what we've been talking to not only our players about and our staff, but also our fan base is just trust the climb. We're gonna take this program and we're gonna develop men. We're gonna graduate guys and place them in future employment opportunities, and we're gonna win. And we're gonna win big. And our goal is to be competing for conference championships in the month of November.
A lot of big things headed into the 2019 season. Thanks so much, Coach, for joining us on today's show.
No, thanks for having us.